Listen closely. You have exactly 180 seconds. If the biological power grid to your brain gets compromised right now, the clock starts ticking. What you do in those 3 short minutes dictates everything. It decides whether you keep your memories, your mobility, and your autonomy, or if you lose them forever. Most people think that if a neurological crisis hits, the first move is to scramble for a phone. They try to walk to a comfortable chair, or worse, they rush to the kitchen sink for a glass of water. Let me tell you right now that instinct is dead wrong. It is completely backwards, and it is costing thousands of people their independence every single year. Imagine your brain as a high-performance, multi-billion-dollar server room. It is the command center of your entire life. This server room demands a massive, uninterrupted flow of oxygen just to keep the network online. When a clot jams a primary artery, which doctors call an ischemic event, or when a vessel ruptures, known as a hemorrhagic event, a sector of your server room goes completely dark. Cells begin dying by the millions every single minute. It is a biological blackout. Today, we aren't just talking about abstract medical theory. I am giving you a tactical, no-nonsense blueprint to override a catastrophic vascular event. We are going to flip the script on pre-hospital care. I am going to teach you a counterintuitive survival maneuver that can literally halt permanent brain damage in its tracks. You are going to learn how to buy your brain time. But before we can survive the main event, we need to talk about the warning signs. Because the truth is, your body almost always tells you when the grid is about to go down. To win this war, you need to understand that major neurological crashes rarely happen out of the blue. They do not just appear from thin air. They are preceded by pre-shock tremors that the medical world calls transient ischemic attacks, or TIAs. Here is the massive problem we face today. Modern society has conditioned us to suffer from something I call dismissal syndrome. Think about it. As we get older, we get an ache in our back. We get a sudden wave of dizziness when we stand up too fast. Maybe an arm goes entirely numb for 5 minutes while watching television. And what do? We brush it off. We blame it on a bad night's sleep. We tell ourselves it's just a pinched nerve or too much caffeine. Let's look at a real-world example. Imagine a woman named Elena. She is 65, healthy, and active. One evening, while cooking dinner, she suddenly drops her spatula. Her right hand feels heavy, clumsy, and completely numb. She feels a little dizzy, but within 10 minutes the feeling comes back. The dizziness fades. Elena decides not to bother her doctor or her family. She tells herself she was just tired. 3 days later, Elena suffers a massive, debilitating stroke. Let me be brutally clear. A TIA is not just a weird physical quirk. It is a system diagnostic warning. It means a clot temporarily blocked your arterial highway before finally dissolving and letting blood through again. The underlying conditions for a permanent crash are already fully established in your bloodstream. If your car's check engine light starts flashing red, you don't put a piece of tape over it and keep driving on the freeway. You take action. You pull over. If you ever experience a sudden, unexplained numbness, facial drooping, or trouble finding your words, even if it goes away completely in 2 minutes, you must treat it as a blaring alarm. Before we move on, consider this. What happens when the warning signs are over and the actual crash begins? What do you actually do in the moment? That brings us to our core survival strategy. Let's talk about a former client of mine. We'll call him Marcus. Marcus was out working in his garage on a Saturday afternoon. Out of nowhere, his right leg suddenly felt like it was encased in solid concrete. He couldn't lift it. When he tried to call out to his wife in the driveway, the words simply scrambled on his tongue. He knew exactly what was happening. He was experiencing a massive stroke. But Marcus didn't panic, and crucially, he didn't try to walk inside the house. Instead, he deployed a biomechanical bypass he'd learned just days prior. He executed what we call the Gravity-First Perfusion Tactic. If you or someone around you exhibits sudden facial drooping, severe unilateral weakness, or slurred speech, this is the exact sequence you must follow. Step 1. Hit the deck. Do not walk. Do not try to move to a soft sofa. Drop exactly where you are. If you are on the driveway, you lie on the concrete. If you are in the grocery store aisle, you lie on the linoleum. When your vascular system is crashing, standing up forces your failing heart to fight gravity, just to get blood up to your brain. Lying flat removes gravity from the equation entirely. It also eliminates the very real risk of a paralyzing, skull-fracturing fall. Step 2. Elevate the landing gear. Once you are flat on your back, have someone prop your feet up about 12 inches. Use whatever is nearby: a toolbox, a rolled-up jacket, a purse, or a couch cushion. Why do we do this? This physically drains the pooled blood from your lower extremities back into your core. It dramatically increases the hydraulic pressure available to push blood past the blockage in your brain. You are actively buying time for the standby zone. This is the vulnerable ring of brain cells surrounding the clot that are damaged, but not yet dead. Step 3. The 4-2-6. Down regulation. Panic is your absolute worst enemy in this scenario. It spikes your blood pressure and accelerates the arterial damage. You must hack your autonomic nervous system to stay calm. Inhale deeply through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold that breath for 2 seconds. Then forcefully exhale through pursed lips for 6 full seconds. That long 6-second exhale is the secret. It triggers your vagus nerve, slamming the brakes on your racing heart rate and preserving precious oxygen for your starving neural network. Now, let's look at this differently. I need to address the nuance layer of this emergency protocol because well-meaning bystanders often do the most damage. We have established that lying down and elevating the legs is vital. But there is a rule 0. We call it the dry protocol. Never, ever give a suspected stroke victim aspirin, a prescription pill, or even a single sip of water. Here is the medical reality most people miss. Neurological events frequently and instantly paralyze the esophageal muscles in your throat. You lose the ability to swallow correctly. If a well-meaning spouse hands you a glass of water to calm your nerves, that water will not go to your stomach. It will bypass your paralyzed esophagus, flood directly into your lungs, and trigger fatal asphyxiation or severe pneumonia. Furthermore, do not offer aspirin. While aspirin thins the blood and is great for a heart attack, it is a deadly gamble during a stroke. If the stroke is hemorrhagic, meaning a blood vessel has burst in the brain, thinning the blood will accelerate the bleeding and guarantee a fatal outcome. You cannot know which type of stroke it is without a CT scan. The pro tip here is absolute minimalism. You lie flat, you elevate the legs, you breathe, and you wait for the paramedics. You do absolutely nothing else. Before we move on, consider this. Surviving the 180-second window is a massive victory. But what happens after the hospital? What happens if some damage was done? For decades, the medical establishment operated on an incredibly bleak assumption. They believed the brain was a hardwired machine. The consensus was that if a piece of the machine broke, it stayed broken forever. You were told to simply adapt to the handicap, buy a wheelchair, and manage your expectations. Modern neuroscience has completely obliterated that depressing myth. Enter the miracle of neural remapping, scientifically known as neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a static machine. It is a dynamic, highly adaptable, living ecosystem. If a primary neural bridge collapses during a stroke, your brain possesses the raw biological ability to construct a brand new bypass route around the wreckage. But here is the catch. It requires friction. Your brain is incredibly efficient. Some might even call it biologically lazy. It will only expend the massive energy required to build new pathways if it is absolutely forced to. This is why modern cutting-edge rehabilitation uses something called forced adaptation training. Let's look at how this works in practice. If a stroke leaves your left arm severely compromised, your natural instinct is to rely entirely on your functional right arm. You use your right hand to eat, to dress, to open doors. But therapists will do the exact opposite. They will physically restrict your strong right arm by putting it in a sling or an oven mitt. They are forcing your brain to struggle. You will try to pick up a cup with your weak left hand and you will fail. You will try again and it will be clumsy. It is exhausting. It is deeply, emotionally frustrating. But that exact frustration is the biological signal your brain needs. Every time you struggle and fail, your brain registers a systemic error and begins laying down new neural tissue to fix the problem. You have to embrace the friction to trigger physical healing. Surviving and recovering from a crash is an incredible testament to human resilience, but optimizing your hardware so it never happens in the first place, that is the ultimate goal. We need to shift your mindset from reactive fear to proactive armor. Let's break down your daily hardware upgrade into 3 non-negotiable steps. First, we need to focus on endothelial lubrication. Stop worrying about temporary internet fad diets and focus on the literal structural integrity of your vascular health. Your arterial walls need to be slick, wide, and flexible. They should not be stiff, narrow, and inflamed. To achieve this, you must prioritize high-grade omega-3 fatty acids. These are found abundantly in wild-caught salmon, walnuts, chia seeds, and premium cold-pressed olive oil. Think of these healthy fats as a premium synthetic oil change for your blood vessels. They actively cool down internal inflammation and make the walls of your arteries slippery, preventing plaque and rogue clots from adhering to them. Second, you must initiate the AM vascular flush. Did you know that the highest risk window for a stroke is the very first hour after you wake up? Think about the physiology. You have been asleep for 8 hours. You are mildly dehydrated. Your blood is highly viscous, meaning it is thick and sluggish. And as you become conscious, your blood pressure naturally surges. Tomorrow morning, before your feet even hit the floor, execute this sequence. First, take 3 deep 4-6 breaths to saturate your stagnant bloodstream with fresh oxygen. Next, perform 50 peripheral piston activations. While lying on your back, vigorously pump your feet up and down at the ankles. In the medical community, your calf muscles are known as your secondary heart. Pumping them forcefully pushes stagnant, pooled blood out of your legs and lightens the morning load on your cardiovascular system. Finally, march to the kitchen and chug 16 ounces of room temperature water. This instantly dilutes your blood and reduces that dangerous morning sludge effect. Third, we have to talk about cortisol mitigation. Chronic, unmanaged stress and severe sleep debt aren't just making you feel grumpy and tired. They are actively destroying your plumbing. When you are stressed, your body bathes your arteries in cortisol. Over time, this stress hormone effectively turns flexible, healthy vessels into brittle, easily cracked pipes. Securing 7 to 8 hours of deep, uninterrupted sleep is not a luxury. Maintaining a strong social network and finding time to decompress are not self-care buzzwords. They are critical structural maintenance requirements for your biology. A calm nervous system creates a resilient vascular system. Let's bring this all together. We just covered a massive amount of tactical ground today. You now know that TIAs, those strange fleeting moments of numbness or dizziness, are non-negotiable warning sirens. You cannot ignore them. You are armed with the Gravity-First Perfusion Tactic. If a crisis strikes, you drop to the floor immediately. You elevate the legs 12 inches. You deploy the 4-2-6 breathing technique to kill the panic. And you strictly adhere to the dry protocol, absolutely zero food, pills, or water. You understand the dynamic, healing power of neural remapping, knowing that frustration and struggle are the keys to rebuilding a damaged brain. And finally, you have a daily hardware upgrade plan. You know how to bulletproof your arteries with omega-3s, the AM vascular flush, and aggressive stress management. You now possess the insider knowledge to protect your body's command center. But keeping this to yourself isn't enough. Use this blueprint. Share this video with your family, your team at work, your parents, and anyone whose health you deeply value. Because when that 180-second clock suddenly starts ticking, knowledge isn't just power, it is survival. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.